What's up, guys and gals, ladies and lads? Welcome back to the channel. And so very first and foremost, sorry if I sound a little off. I'm a tad bit sick, so that's why. But I still wanted to get this video out there anyways. It's been a little bit since I did one of these like dedicated videos where I just talk to the camera. I'm gonna show stuff as well, but as you can figure out from the title and the thumbnail, I want to talk about the new player experience in fighting games, and especially Tekken. There's been a ton of discourse about this. There's been many videos already, but I wanted to add a little bit to it. And the thing that I feel like isn't really talked about in those are, well, you can see it in the thumbnail, and chances are if you stumble across the video, you've probably seen one of these as well. And I'm talking about stuff like this. So yeah, I'm talking about stuff like this. Chances my camera is a little bit on the way. You can see there's even more stuff there. Basically, you have like wall breaks, you have everything, also stuff like that there. It's, don't get me wrong, it's useful stuff in there, but the problem is how it's presented, and there is so much of it. So if I look at this like, okay, you have your punishers, you have while-standing punishers, you have get lows, pokes and key moves, then you have your stances explained, some staple combos. Actually, like, pretty useful stuff. But the problem is how this is presented is it's very overwhelming, and it's a lot. And like, even someone who understands, like, looking at this initial, is like, the initial reaction I had when I saw, like, there's also been a Jin one, there are multiple of these. The initial reaction that I had when I saw one of these first was like, what the fuck? And it's a lot to take in. And the problem here is, if you're a new player, most of this stuff doesn't make sense. And looking at this is overwhelming. And that's the big problem that I have with stuff like this. Like, I literally have, a friend told me literally yesterday that one of their friends saw one of these and literally like messaged one of these to, I think it was a Jin one, to him, and told him, yeah, I don't know how I feel about Tekken, I think I'll just play Street Fighter instead. Like, literally, because of seeing something like that as a new player, got turned off from playing the game entirely. And that is heartbreaking. So the problem here, like I said, is that how the information is presented, and there is so much stuff here. Like, people always joke about, oh yeah, every character has 200 moves, you need to remember everything. No, you don't need to remember everything. And even stuff like this, which is maybe going to be useful on the long run, when you're starting off as a new player, 90% of this stuff is worthless to you. And since I don't need to repeat what has already been said. Let me just really quickly, I highly recommend this video by Sajam, Advice for New Tekken Players, from a new Tekken player. This is also stuff that's very applicable to mini fighting and not just Tekken, but since I don't feel like repeating something that someone has already said, I'll just play this couple, like 20-second clip and listen to what he says.
Learning offense and learning combos is very easy. Like, how many of you know how to do a basic combo in Tekken? And how many of your opponents know how to do a basic combo in Tekken? You learn your mid, you learn your low, you learn your fast, like, high checks, and you learn like some kind of basic mix up with a grab or something, and you're good to go. You have like these 4 basic concepts and you're good. How many of you know how to block and punish like 10% of the things your opponent?
That's the thing about especially Tekken. There is so much stuff you need to know about your opponent's character. And like Sajam also goes on to talk about like how, especially as a new player, like you being on the offense is you have the advantage, because as a defender you need to know what both of your characters do, and when you're going on offense you only need to basically know, okay, there are characters with parry. There are exceptions with everything in Tekken, but for the sake of keeping this simple and keeping this understandable, because, well, we want to avoid overloading anyone with information. That's the key thing that I want to avoid here. Is you can get away with a very simple game plan, and you should have a very simple game plan at first. So let me just grab this one. So this is very similar. So this is a Tekken 8 library by Appley. A very good resource. I highly recommend it. I'll have this in the description. I highly recommend this resource. And it works similar. Let's just grab my boy King here. So it works similarly as this, but at least immediately when I look at this, I think it's cleaner. There's basically the same amount of stuff here. It's a node. It doesn't use buttons. It's instead with the notation. But you also have some explanations for things here, where it's just information you have to digest yourself. Here you actually have some explaining for important moves and stuff like that. But even with this, there is so much stuff here that you don't need to worry about. And we'll get back to this a little bit, but in a little bit. But for you as a truly new player, even a lot of this is useless. And what's useful is stuff like this. This is a tweet by a VTuber called Victoria Brightshield. I don't know which character this is, but this is literally, I'm celebrating, hey, we learned a combo, and this is their notes on Tekken 8. Whereas, okay, mid, when you're blocking mid, you're blocking highs and mids, and when you're crouching, you're blocking lows, and you basically, isn't okay, blocking highs, you obviously duck under that. But yeah, basic defense. Punish literally just one string. If your opponent does something that looks like, okay, hey, I can maybe do something here, this is what they do. You don't overwhelm yourself with, okay, your punishes for these frames are these, because you don't know frame data early on, and maybe you're not interested, and that's perfectly fine. You don't need to. You have this thing. Okay, I'll try this. Oh, that didn't work. Okay, that's safe. And then this. Down forward 2, and then 4-3-4, 4-4-2-3, and this is after launching. It's literally, they're just, okay, I have a very simple combo, and this is a really good package to start your offense. You don't need much more than this when you're starting as a new player. And as someone who, when I started, I got into FGC with Tekken, and I was learning stuff, I had so many A4 papers, like both sides covered in combo notations. I learned everything the wrong way, definitely. I was just doing combos and not focusing on anything else. Probably shouldn't do that, but you can learn the game any way you want to. And this just warms my heart that, hey, other people also just do stuff like this. But this actually is incredibly useful. So literally, okay, let's take something out of here. We have most important grabs. This is mostly King specific since he is a grappler. Guaranteed follow-ups. This is stuff you don't need to worry about. This stuff here. Heat engagers, probably even would worry about this. Important moves. This is a good section. Punishment. This is a good section, but we'll focus on very specific things, and then important combos. We'll literally take one thing here. So let me hop back into the game. And we're in practice, and I'll use King as an example. And literally the thing you want to do when you're learning the game and you're getting started with the game is limit your options, because there is so much. If you go to the move list, okay, all techniques, all right, King has 197 moves. You don't need to remember those. You can remember those later on. You don't need to remember those early on, and you need to focus on a few things. So literally, when you're starting off, pick a character that you think looks cool, think that you might like, and then fill them out. If you vibe with them, stick with them. Like just try moving, try clicking some buttons with characters. Okay, how do they feel like? What do they do? Okay, that's pretty cool. And then go from there. Like, one thing that I've seen a lot is just like, hey, a new player, like, which character should I pick? There are characters that are definitely easier than other characters, like Mishima. If you just want objectively to hear, like, playing Claudio is gonna be easier than playing Kazuya. Like, that's just objective truth. But every character is gonna have some funky stuff later along the line if you want to go deeper. So just pick whoever you think looks the coolest and play with them. And literally, when you're starting off, the things you want to focus on is just pick a couple good pokes, a couple good lows. As a new player, find out what your power crush is. You're gonna get a lot of use out of that. And then learn a single combo. And that is all that you should limit yourself to early on. And then a single punish. So let's go from the top. Combos are fun, so I guess we can start with that. Like, basically once again, everything has exceptions, but basically every character is gonna have a generic launcher that is a 15 frames. Like you see there, attack starter frames 15. You wanna see your options, like what does your character have? So the most common ones are hop kicks, which are gonna be up forward and one of the kick buttons, usually 4, and down forward 2s. King doesn't have a generic down forward 2, but those are gonna be the tools that most of the cast have. And one of those most likely is going to be your 15 framer. So that's going to be your launcher. You don't have to worry about any other launcher at first. Like you have stuff like while standing launchers and stuff like that. We don't need to worry about that when we're starting off. So literally just find your one. All right, that my king up 4-4, the hop kick or hop knee is going to be our generic launcher. And then just figure out a combo that's easy for you to do off that thing. It doesn't need to be complicated. Like you can do hard stuff, but it doesn't need to be hard. You can literally just... So the stuff that I usually do off of this looks like... Great start. Looks like this. You can get more there, but nice 6-7 damage. It's easy. So what I do here is simple. You do up forward 4, you do 4, you do back 2, 4, back 3 for the screw, and then you run into them, and when you're running, you press 2+4 for the grab. But even stuff like that, like, let's say that's maybe hard, you can do something like this. You do up forward 2, back 1, 2 for the screw. Sorry, muscle memory. And then forward 2, 1. 43 damage. Like, this is, when you get the launch, you just get this damage every time. It's very simple. You can just start with that. Like, just take something that you can do consistently, so when you get the launch, you get the guaranteed damage there. You can do something, like, very simple like this. Alright, we have our combo. Now we have our combo. Now, what? I don't, obviously, like, you shouldn't be throwing out this move out at all times when you're playing the game, because it is unsafe. Your opponent can... when I talk about stuff like being... We won't dwell into frame data here too much, but when I talk about stuff like stuff being unsafe, that means the stuff that's more than a minus 10 or more. That's... If your stuff is minus single digits, it's safe. If it's minus 10 or more, your opponent can do something to hit you guaranteed after you do it. So you shouldn't just be throwing this out willy-nilly. So, okay, what else do we have? If you just look at King's important moves in the Apply doc, you have stuff there. And one good button, down forward 1. This down forward 1 is another button that basically every character, once again there are exceptions, basically every character has, that usually tends to be a 13 framer. King has a 14 framer since he has another 13 framer. But this is a fast, safe mid poke. You see it's -1, so even if this gets blocked, nothing happens. So this is just something, a good button that I can use to check my opponent. Okay, it has a follow-up, you can't hit confirm it, but if you just mash it out, it does hit, but that is not safe on block, so you can just stick to down forward 1. Alright, let's grab another one. Let's take forward 3. So forward 3 is this, another poke, very good range. And even if it's blocked, it's -8, so you're completely safe. And the cool thing about King's forward 3 is when it hits, you can input 1+2 on hit, and you get a hit grab as well. But you don't have, that's another thing, you can do that, but you don't have to worry about it. You can just do this, and it's good. So alright, now we have our launcher, we have a combo off of that we can do, we have some good meat buttons that we can do. If our opponent is just standing there and blocking everything, we need to threaten them with something that will make them duck. So let's find some lows. The generic grabs are plenty enough for you when you're starting off. You can just do generic grabs if you sometimes want to grab. But for lows like for King, let's take down 3. Very simple, pretty close range, actually decent range. Low, very fast, 17 frames, and only minus 12 on block, so you won't get blown up if this gets blocked. Just a nice poke that means that your opponent can't just block everything standing. And then let's grab another one. Let's take Dubback 4. The Dubback 4 is very ambiguous, like probably for a new player, like they see this, they don't even realize that it might be a low. It's a very good poke. It's very slow, but forces knockdown. It's very nice. You also have other stuff, but you can just stick to those. You can also, like, if you want, you can also take Dubback 3, another very good one. Very, like, advancing blow that also, since King does go down. Same thing with here, like, you go down, so you low profiles and moves. So these are just some good low pokes to consider. Okay, now we have some low pokes here. We have some mid pokes. What next? So punishment is the second to last thing that I'll talk about really briefly. And basically this was when I was earlier saying, like, if you block something that's more than minus 10 or more, you can get some damage guaranteed. And you saw, like, there are different frame values in the punishment section of the ducks. Since you can stuff like that's more punishable, you can punish with 12 frames, you can punish with 14 frames, some stuff you can obviously launch. But when you're starting off, like you saw in the VTuber notes, literally just grab something simple. For King, just grab his fastest punish, that being 10 frames, which means that if your opponent does anything that's unsafe, you can punish with this. So when your opponent does something that, let's say, like, okay, you are against the King and they do something like this, okay, that looks very slow, or even better, like something super slow like this, or something like this. That's different because it's low, sorry. Just with King, you can just do 2-1. Most characters have some jab string, just like 1-2. 1-2 also works for King. So Mishimas and some others have like 1-1-2. But just find something that's 10 frames and just do that every time. It'll mean that you're very consistent, so you don't mess that up, and you can just try the waters with that. Like later along the line, then you can find more optimal punishes. But early on, just stick to something that works. If you see your opponent does something that, hey, let me see if I can do something, you can just 2-1. And the good thing about this too is, even if you can't punish them, it gets blocked. That's perfectly fine. You're safe. It's -3. So, and really briefly, this is, I think this is already maybe a little too far for, like, if you're just starting off, but you need to block sometimes low, obviously. And when you block something low that's punishable, like, let's say Kazuya blocks that, it's -12, so Kazuya can then punish me. But since he's crouch blocking, he doesn't have access to, like, I can't do this. If I'm crouching and I press 1-2, I instead get this thing. So I don't have access to my generic stuff. You can do, we call this a dick jab. You can do this, but basically every character has a while standing for that's 11 or more, which is just this. So when you get up from crouch, as you release the crouch button, if you press your 4, it just does a simple kick. And this is simply 11 framers, so if you block something, this is another thing that it's safe if it gets blocked. So if you block something crouching, just press your 4, do your while standing 4, so you don't have to worry about that too much. And the final thing that I want to cover is power crashes, because when you're starting off at low level, like, people are just gonna be mashing buttons. No one's gonna be blocking. People are just doing things. You're just doing this, and at some point, like, you'll be overwhelmed. Like, okay, I would like to play the game now. So knowing what your character's power crush is actually very good. And King, once again, an example, has actually a very good one. So his back 3 that you already saw we use in one of the combos is the 16 frame kick, very fast. And the neat thing about this thing is you can add all the, like, if you're ever doing this, if you're just committed to this anyway, you can mash 1+2 during it, and if you get the hit with the kick, King will do a follow-up attack, running and slamming the opponent. But that's another thing that, once again, like, you don't have to worry about that. It's -10, so it is not safe to just throw out, and it's a high, which means that it can be ducked, but that's another thing, like, people don't know defense and people won't really be ducking when you're starting off. That's something that'll come later along the line and you don't need to worry about it right away. But just knowing your power crush is very good, because so what power, I actually don't think I explained, but what power crushes do is, as long as your opponent is not doing a super of sorts, so like a rage art or their heat smash, you'll armor through their move. And the other thing that loses to the power crush lose to is a throw or a low attack. So if you get hit with a low during this, then you won't have the armor. But still, like, if your opponent is doing a lot of, like, okay, they're just mashing stuff like this, doing all sorts of things, most of the stuff that you're gonna be faced with are mids and highs. So a power crush is a nice way to get them off of you like that. But basically, just to recap, it's the ultimate thing that I want to do is just, when you're starting off, just simplify your game plan. Like, literally, find a couple good moves that you can do. Find a single combo that works every time and that you can do every time. So when you get to cash in for a little more damage, you can do that. Find a couple low pokes that work that you can just use to open up your opponent. Find your fastest punish and literally just use that as a punish for everything, so you don't have to worry about, you don't need to right away know, like, okay, that's minus 13, so I can punish it with this, and it's 12 frames, stuff like that. You don't need to worry about that. And then find your power crush, so when your opponent is going sicko mode on your defense and you want your turn back, you can get it back. But that's pretty much all, honestly, it. Basically, I was just inspired to do this because of I saw the, like, initially I saw the different graphs online and I didn't think much of it. It's like, oh, that's the first time I saw one, I was actually like, I saw my initial reaction to it was like, what the fuck? But then I looked at it, I was like, oh, okay, it's that. Neat. But then, like, I've now heard, like, multiple cases. Like, I see it in the posts with those, like, I've seen people talk about it. It's like, bro, how is anyone ever gonna learn this? I've literally heard from a friend a real example of someone getting turned off of Tekken because of them seeing something like that, thinking, oh, this is a basic guide. And it's not a basic guide. Like, Tekken goes very deep. There's gonna be a lot to learn, and it's very important to take baby steps. That's the thing with every single fighting game. Like, you should focus on a couple small things at first, and then when you feel comfortable with those things, you move on to learn more complicated things. So even with, like, a game like Tekken, you can condense your 200 moves. Okay, I need to know 200 moves. You can condense that to under 10. You can do very well with single digit moves. You know a couple lows, you know a couple mid pokes, you know your single combo, I don't know my single combo. You know your punish in, like, to start off, you know your power crush. Like, that's gonna get you very well, very far. But yeah, hopefully some of this stuff was insightful or useful to you in some way. I've been loving Tekken 8. It's definitely, like, brought back, and overall brought me back to Tekken, and overall just, like, I feel like I've been loving playing fighting games in 2024, and I feel like there are even many more exciting things in the future as well. But it was fun. Hopefully you found it useful in some way, and thank you for watching all the way here if you made it through. So good luck in your games, and remember not to be too harsh on yourself. The game is hard, it's gonna be a long road, and remember that the most important thing for you is just to have fun with it. Find a character, find a way for you to enjoy the game, and go from there. So hopefully all of you have a great rest of your week, and have a great rest of your day as well. I'll catch you all in the next video, and peace.